Hello, Laura from Life Coaching with Laura here today. And once again, I am meeting up with fellow coach Marilyn Ehrhardt. And today we're going to be talking about abuses in the workplace. Now, Marilyn is a career coach and she works with women to help them prepare for the dreams that they have in the workplace. Marilyn comes with all experiences and knowledge and wisdom to be able to help women do these exact things. So I'm going to bring her on here and we're going to talk today about what she sees as abuses to women in the workplace. Welcome, Marilyn.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
Good. I'm going to turn up my sound a little bit more. It's always so good to see you.
Today is a good day to have a good day.
Today's a good day to have a good day. Okay, I agree with that. Okay. Well, I love that we get to meet here monthly and you get to educate me as well as our listener. I always love for you to share a little bit about what type of coach you are and the type of women you know you can serve best.
Sure. I am a career business coach for women that are seeking to move their careers to the next level, or start their own business or to be an entrepreneur. And my goal is to pass down the experience and the learning that I have throughout my life to all of them and helping see go from here to there successfully.
Amen. And I know that you do a tremendous job with that. We always plan ahead what we're going to be talking about. And I know that today we're going to be talking about abuse in the workplace. Now, would you give us what the definition of that is, how you define abuse in the workplace?
Sure. This is a very important subject to me. And I have looked at the definition of abuse. It doesn't matter who is abusing who.
Okay.
It's when self is at the center stage of our hearts, then abuse
Say that again, please.
happens.
Say that again.
When self is at the center stage of our heart, abuse happens. And I like to let us go back to Genesis in the Bible.
Okay.
Everything was perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
God said, very good. Then that perfect love of God in the heart of Adam and Eve was substituted for self.
Mm. Yeah.
I want to be more powerful than God. Therefore, I'm going to use my free will to disobey and gain power.
Wow.
Think about it. And from this, the world fell apart.
Yeah.
There was a curse from the creator of this universe that said to Eve, said to Adam, you will be in control of Eve. And Eve, you will try all your life to be in control of Adam. Relationships fell apart.
Yes.
When we put self before God in our heart, abuse happens. We open the curtains of abuse.
And aren't we all guilty of that? You know, what I love about this conversation is that we have been guilty, and this is an awareness of how to be mindful of what that looks like and where it starts in the heart of man. And that is, like you said, it's the original sin, right? It's positioning self over God.
Yes. So let us move the needle forward. And society for centuries has expected, and it still does, women to hold back and be a good woman. On the other hand, men are taught to take charge and go for what they want, self, without fearing the decline of their status.
Mm.
So let's just go to that model, because that's the model that drives everything forward.
Yeah.
And this is why bias and gender inequality will never be solved with DEA government programs, because it is a hard problem, not a gender problem and not a government problem. It is a
And what
high.
does that acronym stand for?
Equality and inclusion. Diversity, equality, and inclusion.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I don't think most of us know what that really is and why it's troublesome in the workplace.
I think it's not troublesome. I think it's mischieving. I think it misleads people as to what they need to do to bring to the table the best gift that they have without competing against one another because I am of a color or ethnicity or a different gender. So what that says is that everybody is equal, and that's not true. And when you try to be like somebody else or think that everybody's equal, that totally disrupts the picture.
Yeah.
Because each one of us are individually different. And men and women were created equal, but were created different.
Yes.
And those differences is what makes the biggest difference.
And that hasn't been argued for the last however many thousands of years that the world was created. And yet, just in the last 4 or 5 years, right, it's this mindset that men can be women and women can be men. And I like how you said, we are different. And you and I would say that men and women positionally have equal value. But what we bring to the table is very different.
Yes, it's very different. And that's what God created, that perfect model of Adam and Eve. So I think, just to summarize the abuses that I see in the workplace, that the DEI is trying to fix and it can't fix. For example, voice of women have less power than the voice of men. For women, silence is good. If you're in a meeting and you're quiet and you have 10 men around you and you're quiet, you're okay. Women are often passed on promotions, especially to C-levels and board level. I don't care what programs they say they have. I was in a board of director meeting with Facebook, and they were talking about this, gender equality and all of that. And I raised my hand and I said, how many women do you have on the board of directors? 0. So it's a lot of talk at the lowest level. But when it gets to the C level and the board level, no, the door is still very closed for women.
And when we talk about the C-suite or the C-level, what do you mean by that?
Chief executive officer of a company, chief information officer of a company, chief operational officer of a company.
Okay, yeah. The C-suite, got it.
Yeah. They, still the VP level, the vice president level is not wide open for women, but they get a little sneak in it. But when it gets to the C level, that's a different story. And especially the board level. And those are the levels where major decisions are made for the corporations. Yeah. Women make less money than men in the same position, and they have not changed with any DEI program. They still make less money than men in the same position. In Oracle, I was the VP of all of Latin America and the Department of Defense. And I made 30% less than my male counterparts.
And when you talked about that, and I'm sure you did, what was the answer?
Oh, they have all kind of excuses. They give you a list of excuses. It's like, no, because, they went to blah, 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 and their experience was blah, blah, blah. But these excuses is not. Your position to have a price, and if you apply and you get it, it shouldn't change because it's a different gender. If somebody gives you a job and you already got the job, then that position should have a price. But no, that price for every job changes depending who they hire.
It's so true. I mean, I have seen behind the scenes how that's very true. And on some sense, it makes sense. But when we see a habitual pattern
Yeah.
of who doesn't get paid, right? Regardless of it's male, female, black, white, whatever the case may be, it's concerning. So why do you think this is an important conversation for women to be hearing and having?
Because I think, and it's one of the things we're going to talk about in this conversation, that women need to learn how to negotiate.
Ah,
That's where the loophole is. Because women tend to take or say, you go there and they say, yeah, your salary, the salary for this job is 100K, for example.
yeah.
And you say, well, my expectations for my experience and my education is 130K.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be willing to negotiate that or walk away. But we don't.
Yeah.
We take what is given to us. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And it's really sad. It continues to be the rule, the mode of operandi in the business world. And that's how women take advantage of, because we don't negotiate. Men do, but we don't. Let us look at some of the root causes as to why this happens.
Okay.
Society has put labels on men and women, and these labels are still active today.
Yeah.
Men are assertive, strong, ambitious. Women, they're emotional. That's the one that's thrown at us all the time.
Yeah.
Caring and friendly. We must be friendly, right? Well, and we put it into these boxes, like women expect less because we have been running the home without pay, okay? So it's natural for us to undervalue our skills.
Yeah.
We're used to it. In 2001, 98% of women were doing child care. 91%, 98%. And 90% of men were engineers.
Mm.
That's a big trend that is hard to change.
Mm.
Women are seen as difficult when we are confident and assert our opinions. That's the way it is.
Yeah. I had a personal experience once many years ago when behind closed doors, I spoke very passionately to a person high up in the C-suite, and the response back to me was that I still had maturity, which I'm always willing to agree. What was very hypocritical about it, though, is I'd seen male men in the C-suite act passionately and rudely and unkindly, and and not be considered, as having not fully matured, right? So I see what you mean about emotional,
Yes.
And most people that would know me say I am not an overly emotional person. I'm very careful with my words. But we can feel passionate about something and speak on it very clearly. So I've definitely been a part of that, where for a male, it's that, he's one thing, and a female, it's another thing.
Indeed. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you two stories that are related to this that are very dear to my heart. And as you know, I was hired by NASA to weld the external tank of the space shuttle, which is the big brown tank that has liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, which is the fuel for the space shuttle. And as a computer scientist, I have to weld that tank with a computer, a robot arm, and AI, 1982. Okay. So I was in my late 20s and I had that responsibility, which was immense. In January of 1986, the Challenger imploded 73 seconds after takeoff.
I remember.
The engineering team told management that the seals in the solid rocket boosters, which is the dynamite that attach to the external tank, will not withstand the cold in Orlando that day. There was ice on the launch pads, which affected the seals in the solid rocket boosters. The engineering team spoke to management, all men. Actually, I was the only woman, but I was on the external side, the external tank side of the equation. And what shows up in the picture? Selfishness. Okay. The leadership team in NASA said, no, we're still going to launch. We're going to take the risk. Right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's two reasons. It costs $1 million to move the space shuttle from the vehicle assembly building to the pad.
Wow.
$1 million one way.
Woo!
Expensive. The second thing, the leadership was under the pressure to show Congress that they could keep the schedule for launching shuttles in 1986. Two, selfish reason. It was a lesson, the biggest lesson of my life in business when it comes to leadership, and why you have to be confident, you have to speak up, and you have to stand by the truth. I learned.
I mean, because sometimes it is life or death, and in this case, it literally was death.
For death. And unfortunately, I don't know if you remember, but Krista McAuliffe, the first teacher in space with a dream to teach kids from the orbit, died in that accident.
Yes.
Again, women. Okay. It is, that one is a very dramatic thing, but I put it as an example because that could be the result of us not speaking up. And even the engineering team spoke. It was not loud enough to start management at the top to say no. That was one of the reasons I left NASA, by the way, because I could not deal with that.
I can't even imagine.
I could not deal with that.
The after effects.
It was crazy because when you saw the space shuttle take off, and I was responsible for the external tank, and you know, if anything leaks out of the external tank, it's a problem. So I didn't know what happened until later. I found out that this engineering team knew that this was going to be a disaster, and management did not listen to them.
It was a gamble, and it was a gamble that cost people's lives.
But it's okay.
So your point is, as women, we need to be outspoken because lives are on the line many times.
Yeah, and it's okay when men do it, but when women do it, oh no, you're emotional, you're rude, you're blah blah blah
negative.
blah blah, and negative. You're negative, and we need to say, okay, I'm a woman, but I'm still going to tell you what I have to tell you, and not be afraid of that disapproval from men. That's what I say, that we have the situation under our control, but we need to start taking steps forward to it. You know, another quick example is when I was in Oracle, and I was responsible for cleaning up corruption in Latin America. And I came to my boss and I told him what was going on. And he goes, Marilyn, you're too emotional. Be quiet. I said, okay, if you don't take action, I'm going to Miami Herald tomorrow and everybody will be exposed. Problem solved. But
Problem solved.
But imagine if I would have said, oh, well, okay, I guess I need to be quiet and not say anything because I can lose my job. I don't care. There are jobs everywhere. But your dignity, your integrity as a woman needs to be stronger than your job. And that's what's going to make you grow into the next level. Because if you're a coward and you're fearful and you keep quiet, nobody's going to choose you to the next level. It's not going to happen. So that's kind of like my story on these things. And the other thing I see, our inability to negotiate what we want and what we think is right and fair hurt women too. The other thing that's very common that we get abused is we apologize endlessly when we believe we are unprepared. Apologize. Men don't do that. They go there, they show what they got, and they leave. But we apologizing because we were unprepared, so we obsess and focus on things that do not matter that much.
And again, it's probably a part of the training, right? I mean, we do hear a lot in our culture, people don't do anything that they need to be apologized for, and that yet they're constantly apologizing. Yes. And, and we're constantly saying, you don't have to apologize. This is not, it's not a situation where an apology is needed, but you're right. It's part of the conditioning that, and I know that you're speaking specifically to women who are wanting to, make it in a corporate world, corporate setting. What you're saying is that you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the skills and the gifts that you have. You have to believe that you belong there.
Yes.
And I think that that's a message for men and women, but especially women in this case, is that you have a right to be. You have a right to be there.
Yes.
And you mentioned something a while ago about, you say that women undervalue themselves a lot of times because, they've worked for free for so long. I also find that we undervalue ourselves because what we're really gifted at comes so natural to us that we feel like everybody can do this. But the reality is not everybody can lead a meeting really well. Not everybody can counsel other people really well.
Yes.
Not everybody can hear what nobody else is hearing really well. And so we need to own our strengths and value them and know that they have a particular place in a particular team.
Yes, exactly. I see that. And, like you're doing your best. Conscientious, you have to do the best job you can, but you don't have to go into a meeting and start apologizing for what you think is not perfectly well done. That's where we get into trouble. No, you did your best, you present your best, and that's it. And that's how, when you start apologizing for details that do not matter, you lose a lot of credibility because people think you focus on the wrong thing. And that's one thing I see over and over again. The other thing that I see often is the self-accusation. We're very good at self-accusation. And we end up doing more than what is expected of that job from us. Because we're saying, oh my goodness, I'm not doing good enough. I got to do more. I got to do more. And your boss sees that and he takes advantage of it. And then that's why you see professional burnout with women. Because
I read a really wonderful article once, and it talked about burnout is usually not because people actually are overdoing it, though many of us are, right? But that actually that there was no reward, either compensation monetarily or even praise that, keeps, it's like a person's fuel. And I remember going to my C-suite and saying, listen, I have too much work to do. And the response was, because that was the culture, the response was, isn't that awesome? And I'm like, no, that's not awesome. And they said, no, this way, you have to depend on God. Now, listen, I'm all about depending on God.
Yes.
But when we have this mindset that just because you can get an extra hour or two out of a person every day doesn't mean it's good for them. Because why not run the race consistently, right? Rather than raggedly and give out early.
Yeah, exactly. And we are the ones that have to stop it. We're the ones that have to stop it. And I think we have control of that. The other thing I think is very common in women that we want to be independent women. Like we want to be independent, meaning that I can do it all and I don't have to ask for help. because I fear that if I ask for help, I'm going to reveal my weakness and incompetence. So we end up doing it all because we don't want anybody else to find out that, hey, maybe I have a weakness. And guess what? We need one another, and we all have weakness. And the women that understand that and get help, number one, they go up the corporate ladder faster because they are understanding and listening to people that are better than them, right? And learning. But I see that piece, and then that is kind of like a lot of the time is the reason why they do so much, because they take it over. And when you're a woman and you're in a position of leadership, you have to let others lead, even if they make mistakes.
Yeah, and you know what that's called? That's called delegation. And that's hard. It's hard for men and women, but women, I think especially. And I know that, back to the C-suite, it was actually somebody in the C-suite who taught me to delegate. And I understood finally, took a long time, is that the less I do, the more I accomplish. When I could bring people into my department, whether volunteers or hired, and I could get them to do certain parts for the department, that freed me up to be like an orchestrator to go and get more people to come into the symphony, right?
Exactly.
And you think about it, in a symphony, not everybody plays the same instrument.
Yes.
And so that's a part of our problem too, is we falsely believe we are supposed to be the whole symphony. No, I'm supposed to either be just the violinist or, the trombonist. And a good orchestrator leader, we're talking to women and those out there that are saying, I've been given so much responsibility, I feel like I have to live up to it. Listen, you got hired because you have lived up to it. Now delegate.
Exactly. Delegate. And delegate makes you a good leader because you're giving other people the opportunity to learn. They may make a mistake, fine, but they're learning. And that's your responsibility as a manager, VP, or whatever level you are. You have to let others learn and delegate. And that is one that I think also we can change. If we think about it, we can change. We don't need to be independent. We're part of a team. I was talking to the guy, one of my business partners that climbed Mount Everest twice. And he told me, he goes, Marilyn, there's only one thing that will make you successful on that trip. Actually, two things, but the one thing that makes you successful is trust, because you don't have anything else. You have to trust God, and you have to trust each member of your team.
Yes.
You don't have a lot of oxygen. You don't have hardly any food. You don't have anything, but you have to trust God and each member of your team. Trust is critical to avoid abuse. And I mean trust in a smart way. Delegate and trust. Hire people that you can trust. That's very important. And I think women avoid doing it all themselves for all these reasons that we talk about. We can step up faster than we can imagine.
Well, and back to delegating, it's not only the art of delegation itself, but it's the art of bringing on people that have a particular skill or, gift set for the particular area that you want fulfilled. Because, we do see a lot of times people trying to take, a square peg and put it in a round hole. Right?
Yes.
And because you were talking about how, we have to allow them to make mistakes. They will make mistakes because we all make mistakes.
Of course.
But a part of it is, number one, great training, right? A lot of times leaders are not great about training that person to do what they need to do. They kind of throw them into it and expect them to be successful. So it's delegating, great training, but also finding the person who has the vision naturally for that role. That's going to be a successful fit.
Totally. It's like you say, it's a symphony. It's like you say, and you have to find the people that have the natural skills and the passion for that particular thing. and then you're going to be fine. You're going to have plenty of time, right? But trying to do it all is always a disaster for us. And the people in the organization will take advantage of that. Men take advantage of that. And then we blame, men and women. Listen, they take advantage of that because we're giving them the opportunity to take advantage of that. And they will. You know why? Because selfishness is at the heart. If I have a woman in my organization, I have women in my organization that get paid less and do more and work all these extra hours without extra pay, hey, I'm looking good to the top.
One of my favorite books, if anybody knows me, is the book Boundaries. I've taken lots of books through it. I hate it myself. But that's the premise in the beginning, right? Is Sherry, the character who doesn't know how to say no and can't figure out why her life is miserable, right? Because she can't say no to her boss and to her mom and to the neighbor and the PTA person, and we know it's wonderful to say yes to things, but I've also learned no is holy too.
Yes, very holy. And that is critical. We have to say no and not feel guilty about it. And say, no, I'm not going to do that. Simple. A lot of times women try to explain why not. I don't explain it. Yes. Men don't explain it. And I think we talked about this before. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. You always talk about the power of why. When you're taking women through your career coaching, you're always helping them to discover first and foremost their why.
Yes.
And I think back to just this whole concept of, no, the word no being a complete sentence and being holy.
Yes.
As much as yes is holy. We both first want to agree that, when I say yes to something, I say no to something else. Yes. And when I say no to something, I'm actually saying yes to something else. So that's a very powerful thought right there. But I know that even for myself, even though my heart is to do more, the reality is I only have so much strength, so much energy, and so much time. That's just the truth. And so what I've decided is I always have to have a powerful why I will say no. I don't have to share it. And a lot of times I don't. Yeah. But for instance, if somebody asks me to do something during the week, outside of something I've already done, am doing, I'll say no. You know why? Because my time with my husband is so important to me. I only get to see him for a few hours a day. Being with him is of higher importance than doing a bunch of other little things. So my why to say no is because in my heart, I know I want to be with my husband.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Every hour counts. And that's what women have to keep in mind. We cannot do it all. We cannot do it all. And, these are some key things to think about and reflect on how we can overcome these challenges of abuse in the workplace. And I think, first, share your ideas without seeking the approval of others. Okay. You have the right to speak your mind professionally. Don't be quiet. Share it. Brainstorm to seek alternative solutions to problems at hand and present them. Don't be afraid. No need to eliminate your emotions. You're a woman. We're women. We don't need to feel guilty about being a woman, and we're different.
Yes.
Okay? So don't try to imitate and try to act like men. Like that. No, I don't have to act like a man. I am a woman.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. And when negotiating, go with the knowledge of what you want and do not accept low targets that go against what you are trying to accomplish. Say no. Whether it's negotiating a salary, whether it's negotiating a promotion, whether it's negotiating less hours, negotiate. And you know what? You know what is the key success factor in negotiations? Influencing. And women are great at influencing.
Yes.
We're great at that.
Yeah.
Use that gift for negotiation.
Yeah. I have to laugh because I think of a personal experience where I was speaking to two top people in the organization, and I was advocating for something I wanted for my department. And at one point, one of the people said to me, "You're exhausting me." So funny. I was wearing them down. And what happened is I didn't end up getting what I wanted, but I kept negotiating so hard that I walked away with a win. It wasn't what I had expected it to be. And I want the listener to hear this, right? Exactly what, Marilyn is saying. Sometimes in our negotiations, we don't necessarily get what we're asking for, but if we negotiate well and we are really sold on why we are fighting for that, we will usually get something of equal value, if not of greater value.
Yes.
And I walked away happy to know that I had worn them down. And because I wouldn't just back off and go, okay, I understand. No, I didn't understand. And I wasn't willing to just concede. And so I just kept properly negotiating.
Yes.
And back to something you said. You said, women, you have a right to speak. And I would say it goes even further. We have an obligation.
Yes.
God has placed us, our employer has placed us in a position to get a job done. Yes. And it would be, quote unquote, easier for us sometimes to keep our mouths shut, but it is not better for the team. Yes. Now, what I have to say may get shot down, but it might be the very thing that moves the ministry, the business, the organization forward.
Yes, for sure. For sure. 100% right. And the last one is a little bit rough and controversial, but I think last but not least. I said, do not use anything else but your knowledge, experience, value to get to your next goal. Do not use your looks. Do not use your dress and fashion. Do not use your happy mask to make others happy, and you fake laughing to get the approval of others. That is serious stuff that puts you in the wrong bucket. And I tell you one thing. I used to tell women all the time, because, they will go to meetings to do a presentation with their tight dress and showing their, everything and all of that, and very sexy with the super high heels and all of that. And then they say, men do not respect me. Yeah. I said, you need to understand, men are biological, visual, sex obsessive people. If you go to a meeting dressed like that, that's all they're going to see. You have to understand when it's okay to dress like that, and when you want people to listen to you and respect you and get to where you want to go. And that's controversial in today's world. They tell women, you're a woman, you can dress whatever you want because men do whatever they want. I said, yeah, but we're different. We're very different.
So list those 5 things again in order. The 5 ways that women set themselves up to be abused or are being abused.
Yeah. Your looks. So I'm really good looking. I'm going to get what I want. Not necessarily. You're going to get what you don't want. Yeah. The way you dress and fashion, your happy mask, because that's very common for women. And also the fake laugh. A lot of women, when they're upset, instead of being quiet and professional, they're that they are insecure.
Yeah.
Men know that. And I tell you why I know this, because I have worked with men all my life, and they make fun of it, and they laugh about it, and they know those are weaknesses. And just like you that have been involved in a lot of sex abuse, and I don't want to go there, now it's less than before.
Not
because
personally,
it's been exposed.
But working with many women through
exactly
abuse, yeah.
Working with many women that you always have to counsel and mentor. I'm not saying this is the cause, but I see at work, it has been the cause. At work, it has been the cause. I had to fire a whole team of men at one point in Latin America because they were abusing the staff, especially the secretaries and the low-level women. But at the same time, these women were dressing like, hello, are you going to a nightclub? Or are you going to work? Don't use all that stuff to get where you want. Use your knowledge, your experience, your value, your integrity. Be authentic, be honest, be humble. Focus on what truly matters to achieve your dreams and your purpose. That's what will take you to the next level. All this other stuff, no. That takes you to the abuse box, for sure.
Well said, and such, such great information from a successful entrepreneur and businesswoman like yourself. I understand that you have a upcoming women's retreat. Would you talk to us about that?
Yes, I am very excited about it. It's a retreat, which is a way to begin the here to there journey.
Okay.
It's going to be in Fort Lauderdale on the beach. We're going to have a good time, a relaxed time, to understand what are the sharks, we call these sharks, the issues that are bringing us always back. We're going to have the opportunity to meditate in a peaceful environment and visualize how we're going to walk the journey to the next step. And we have a keynote speaker who is a woman from Argentina that owns a franchise that is called Hat Works.
Oh, that's a big deal.
And she is so inspirational in showing us that not only what she had to do to own that franchise, but also how important your physical health is into everything that we're talking about. So I'm very excited about it. We have limited because I want the women that come to get a lot of value. So it's only 15 women, and I'm hoping they join.
Yeah. I will put the information in the show notes so that women can see that and get more information. So Marilyn, what's the best way for the listener to contact you and see if they're ready to begin career coaching with you?
It is h2t.savianet.com.
Okay.
h2t.savianet.com.
And on Instagram and Facebook, it's merely Marilyn Ehrhardt, Ehrhardt, right?
Yes.
Okay, at Marilyn Ehrhardt. And I'll have that in the show notes as well. Well, for those of you who would like to connect with me, I can be reached through Instagram and Facebook through Life Coaching with Laura. You can find me at lifecoachingwithlaura.org. And I'm also doing a podcast these days with two amazing men out of North Carolina. And it's a podcast called Encouragement Now. And it's where we blend the scriptures with mental health. And I'm learning as much from these men as I think that sometimes they're learning from me. So I really want to invite the listener to come and be a part of that. And, as a Christian personal growth coach, I personally love working with women from all walks of life to discover how they can get unstuck so that they can live more full. And for me, that means beautiful, prayerful, joyful, peaceful, and every other full that there is. So Marilyn, can you give us your last thoughts for today?
Yes, sure. I just want to add that this podcast is very good. So I encourage people to listen to it. I listen to it.
Thank you.
Encouraging other women to listen to it because it's very, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, the conclusion is women are beautiful, absolutely beautiful, inside and outside.
Yes.
And my point is, remember, before the fall, God created men and women equal but different. And the culture has totally corrupted that.
Yeah.
And we need to get back to that.
I agree.
I'm so grateful that God created me to be a woman with all the gift that He has given us, the beauty, the love, the unconditional love that we can show, all this stuff. Use it for your dream and your purpose, and do not listen to the culture that is taking you in the wrong direction. Those are my last words.
Those are great words. I want to thank you for being with me again today. I look forward to being with you the first Wednesday in November, God willing. And we want to say to the listener, peace and love.
Peace and love. Thank you, Laura. Bye-bye.